Welcome to Let's Just Play. I'm Jasmine,
I'm Eric.
and today we're going to give you our top 10 games to play with your toddlers to get them into board gaming. Do you want to start?
Sure. So really quick, my list is basically built somewhat off of games that you would introduce at the younger age, so around two, games with not a lot of rules and more just about playing the game with them and getting them familiar with taking turns and things. Um, and
And for the record, toddlers like 2 to 5-ish is how we're using it. I think technically maybe 1 to 5, but probably not going to play a board game with a 1-year-old.
yeah. Well, and this is also, I sort of structured it around, right, growing from a 2-year-old who might be learning to talk or might still be walking around and doesn't have all the motor skills, and then up to a 5-year-old who's starting to read and can do a lot more. It's very loosely structured. It's not necessarily best to worst, although I will say the ones on the end or at the top, 10, 9, 8, are ones that we're more likely to get rid of over time. They're not ones that will probably stick around as long. Although some of them we still have and we still play with our 6 and 7-year-olds.
I did the same thing. Like at some point in my list, there's a shift from like these are games to introduce games for like 2-year-olds to like these are actually fun games to play with like a 4 or 5-year-old.
Yeah. Okay, so my first one, and final thing, I think
Number 10.
also number 10. Yes, that's right, number
Gotta
10.
remember to put the 10.
Yeah. I think also, obviously, I think there's a lot of things that fit into these categories, but my first one was Honeybee Tree because I distinctly remember it. So it's a very simple game where you basically just have sticks that you put into a little tree or whatever, and then you put honeybees in the top, plastic ones, and all you do is you pull out the leaves, and then the bees fall, and you count who had the fewest bees. And I just remember playing it with our oldest when he was very young, and playing it with other kids, and it worked really well to teach him how to take turns. And all it is just pull a piece.
Okay. This will be easy. My number 10 was also Honeybee Tree.
Nice.
You can tell we raised the same kid. I like it better than games like it. So, like, there's other games where you have some sort of cylinder and sticks that you put in. I like that the leaf stops it from going all the way through. So it's like less hectic and chaotic to like put it together. And it can be very frustrating for a kid if like the sticks aren't holding up like how they should. Um, and then the other thing I like about it, like, so we used it primarily for taking turns and like learning how to go in order and follow turn order. It's also dexterity, right? Like they have to remove like small sticks and help set it back up by putting, sticks through small holes. So those are good. But I also like it because winning and losing can still be tough at that age.
Mm.
And so kids are pretty thrilled to get the bees, even though you lose if you have more bees. So I know our kids were both like, they wanted more bees because the bees were stinking cute. So like that helped. This is a game that got a lot of love in our household, but also like it's no big deal if you lose a bee here and there. And we lost plenty of bees and leaves to hold it all together, and it still remained a fine game until we grew out of it. So yeah, I think that games like that are good, but specifically Honeybee Tree is a pretty solid choice for just getting started learning how to take turns.
Right. Yep. And I think we also picked it up at like a thrift store or something. You probably find we probably thrifted ours.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
missing half the pieces, but
so my number 9.
whatever. Don't I get to go first now?
You want to?
Isn't it every other?
Yeah, it's fine.
Taking turns. Number 9 is I picked memory, and I think a lot of people may think this is a relatively lame choice, because memory is like, how gamey. But I really like it. Specifically, one of our kids is really good at memory, has a great memory, and so it feels good to let her like not let her win, but like it feels good that she can like beat us sometimes at memory. So I would say even starting out at 2, like depending on the type of memory that you use, like we have Harry Potter memory, we have animal, like farm animal memory and stuff like that too. So depending on what you're using, like that can be something you play with a 2-year-old, but it's still fun all the way up until 5 or 6. Or longer. I still have fun with it. But the reason I picked memory is because it's one of the only games on my list where you really have to pay attention during other people's turns. And so, like, growing that ability to pay attention during other people's turns, which some adults don't even do with board gaming, I feel like this is an important skill to teach is like we're present during games, we're paying attention, or else it may impact your turn, right? Like, you're going to do better if you're seeing what other people are doing. Um, so, yeah, I picked memory for that reason.
Good choice. My number nine was Operation, which I guess we didn't get till very late in our board. Like our kids were, I mean, we got it last year, I guess.
I think they played Pandemic before they played
They
Operation.
played Pinner before, but we went to just like a game night, I think, or something. They had Operation, and the kids liked it, and I think
Mhm.
it's one that you can introduce. Again, it has very simple rules. I think you're basically just getting a card and trying to get that piece out. There's a dexterity element, taking turns, and so yeah. I mean, I think it's also inexpensive, and I think it's just enjoyable. You have a little person, the guy on the table, and you're just taking pieces out.
Mhm.
So,
They get a kick out of it for sure. You can do your number
sure, my
eight.
number eight was memory. So for all the
Oh, you put
reasons,
memory on it?
yeah, it's a good one.
Oh,
And yeah, I think there's a ton of different, like you said, there's a ton of different genres, or not really genres, but
themes to it.
different themes to it that you can pick. And I think that gets them involved and yeah, teaches them to pay attention, not on their turn. So,
And
good one.
it's obviously very flexible of a game. Like our kids, especially the one that really likes memory, she will be like, okay, now we're going to have memory, but everybody has a superpower. So, like, this person can flip three tiles, this person can switch around stuff before someone else goes. Like, it, and so it's just, I mean, a very flexible game to just, I don't know, open up
Yeah.
game.
And I think again, it has as a game, it has very few rules. It's very simple.
Mhm.
Um, but our kids and especially the one really enjoys it. So
Mhm. Your number eight. Wait, no, my number eight. Okay, so I wanted to pick, so now most of the rest of my list is like type of game, and then this is my favorite type of game. So there are so many different mechanics and stuff that are out there that you want to teach your kid, um, but you have to start somewhere, right? They don't just like grow up knowing how to play Pandemic, for instance, or something like that. So my number eight is a real-time game. I want my kids to know like how to play real-time games where you're like up against the clock or something like that. So we recently played like a year ago Wig Out, which is a real-time card laying game. I called it like Nerds for kids because you're like trying to get rid of the cards in your hand, similar to Nerds. But you're just playing pairs of cards. So you're drawing cards and you're playing pairs of cards. And I really love it. It's very fast paced. So like, and it depends on the cards that you get. But the kids will team up against us and try to win and everything like that. And you can sandbag, like all these different kind of like things are coming into play. You're learning different mechanisms of like how to be sneaky and win too. So yeah, I like it because it's I think one of the only real time games that we have where you're just like trying to beat each other, if get there before someone else does.
that's a good choice. It's probably not on my list, but I don't know why I didn't add it. It is a lot of fun. Um, and again, simple rules, which I
Yeah,
think
you
is
could play with
important.
a 2 year old and up like our kids are 6 and 7 right now, and they
Yeah.
would still really like Wig
And
Out. You can
yeah,
slow it down.
you
Like
can
if you're
slow
playing
it
against your
down and
kid, you don't obviously go real hard against a 2 year old, but
wipe them out. But it's pretty
every
fun.
once in a while, watch
And
them
it was a surprise that we went to a game convention and they had it as a play
play
to
to
win,
win. Yeah.
and we got to bring it home, and we've played it a decent amount. So,
Mhm.
good one. Is it you now for number seven?
Yeah. Number seven. Okay, so I did a cooperative game, and I may have a few. Is it Hob? Is it Hob? The yellow box?
Yeah,
Okay, so I might have a few of theirs on here because they just do such a stellar job of like kid games. But the first one that I have is a cooperative game, My First Orchard. Um, and I chose this one for a couple of reasons. So I really like this game. The kids really liked it at, especially at first when they were first playing board games on their own. Like we can play games where we run most of it, but like this is one where they can make their own decisions. Um, I like it. It's color recognition, so you don't need to be able to read or anything. A little bit of iconography, like reading. So like there's the raven. Like you need to know what happens when you roll a raven. If you roll like wild, you can pick one of anything. So like there's a little bit of iconography, so you're like color recognition and know what to do. So roll and take a fruit, and you're trying to clear the orchard before the raven gets to the end. Um, but it's very simple, and I don't know that there was many times that we played when the kids didn't want to immediately play again. And you win, you lose. So you're also getting practice losing graciously and you're like encouraging each other because it's cooperative. So I did really like that for like a simple game that they could play on their own. Um, but it builds up some of those traits.
Yeah, that was a good one. My number seven was Candyland, uh, which is pretty straightforward. I think a lot of people have played it. The kids really like it. Even now, I think we'll play it. I think you kind of turned it into a funner game. It's kind of a race to the top to get the candy, but then you bring everybody else along. Um, and it teaches. I think we've had it for a long time. It was the first one, where they're flipping a card and you can move to a specific spot or a specific, one color or two colors. And it was just the first one I feel like I saw them starting to understand a game,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't like it has a little bit more to it, but it's still just complete chance. But ultimately, they really enjoy it, and it's simple rule set. So,
And reading the board a little bit too with like the arrows and the
right,
sticky
yeah.
licorice or whatever it is. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one too. Um, you're number six.
Number six. Okay, so I really like cooperative games, and I think that when you're looking for games, especially, games that you might own yourself, a lot of companies put out their My First or like Catan Junior, that type of thing. And so this is one of those. It's a cooperative game. It's My First Castle Panic. So, basically you have uh, a castle and you have goblins coming up the way, and you're playing cards to defeat them, and it's very simple, but there's strategic elements to it. When do you play a specific card? Because it's cooperative, you can take other people's cards. And so, again, you play with them the first time, and they're just sort of learning the rules. And then by the fifth or 10th time, they're making strategic decisions, very light ones, but still they're making decisions. They're like, hey, Dad, can I get your card? Because that goblin's about to hit us. Um, and then, a couple times the kids have just broken out the game themselves and played it all on their own. Um, so yeah, it's a good one. My First Castle Panic.
I don't think I have that one on my list. Okay, number six for me, again, is purely iconography. And also, this is a game they actually break out often on their own. Don't necessarily play that by the rules, but that's fine. But No Mercy for Monsters. It's a game where like you're knocking over monsters essentially and trying to clear the room of monsters. And it's one where it's very cute. Like the box is the board. The monsters are fun. You get to, they're in little plastic pedestal stands and you knock them over and stuff. But like, you get an item and you've got all these circular tiles or chips
Yeah,
like
circular. Yeah,
flipped
rulers,
over
whatever.
and you're picking one and that's your tool. So you might pick a sock and then you have to throw it at the monster to try and knock it over. Or you might have a ball, you have to toss it through a window. You might have a bucket of water to drop overhead. Or you might flip a monster and then a monster that you've already knocked over, you have to restand up. So it can be difficult.
Yeah,
Um, it also can just be silly fun, which is still good for kids. So like there's some dexterity elements because you're throwing and tossing things.
roughly.
You can make it harder by adding more monsters or objects. I think that's like one of the things you can add as objects. But yeah, mostly the iconography. I like that they're able to look at a picture and like get that practice of seeing like a picture tells you what to do or tells you the rule even. You have to, it's something to reference a rule for. Um, so that's why I picked that like kind of practice reading pictures.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think there's also moments of excitement. Well, with all the games, but there's moments of like throwing and then knocking down a bunch of them, and you're excited and you're kind of rooting for each other because it's also
Also
cooperative.
cooperative.
Like you can do it, and that's
Yeah.
good. Celebrating other people's wins. And number five, I think, is you.
Okay. Okay, number five for me is Rory's Story Cubes, which is, I think, relatively familiar to people now, but was, I think, new to me when we got them. But just like a little pack of story cubes. I like it because it's one of, I think, the only thing on my list where it's purely creative. So you roll the dice and you hand out however many that you have for people. And you tell a story based off of the pictures that are showing. So it can be role playing. It can be an intro to role playing, but it can also just be an intro to creative storytelling games. Um, and I also like it because it's so small and you can pop it into a bag or a purse and take it with you to like a restaurant or in the car, even you could play sitting around your different spots in the car.
Yeah, my number five was also Roy Story Cube. So yeah, it's just a nice little game that it's fits into anything, and I don't know, kids seem to enjoy storytelling, and it kind of just assists that. And uh,
There's tons
and
of different expansions,
yeah,
not
Batman one,
expansions, but
and
versions. Yeah.
that's fun. Number four for me, I guess, is another my first game. It's my first Carcassonne, which is like Carcassonne if you played that ish, right? You get a tile, you place it. Um, there's again, some thinking going on of where do you place it and how do you get your people off the board. It's much simpler. It's definitely not something you'd ever break out on a normal game night. I mean, it's my first, so. Uh, but
Family game night,
for a
yeah.
family game, I mean, we play with them still. My daughter wanted to play it when she was home sick the one day from school. That's the game she picked. And we actually, so there's four different colors, and you basically are trying to get your pieces onto the board and then off the board. And once you've got all of yours, um, you win. And so we actually each controlled two colors. So as a 5-year-old or 6-year-old at the time, it wasn't too complicated for her, and she understands the rules, and it's fun. So it's like a nice little introduction to tile laying and like strategic
Claiming,
thinking.
claiming
But yeah,
that sort
and
of.
like tracking some of the routes. I mean, they're not difficult, but you have to like watch them and see where you put in stuff. And again, our kids like to work together. So sometimes
Mhm.
they
To
help each other,
chorus,
even
yeah.
though they're on the same different teams. But
Yeah. What was that, number four?
number four, yep.
Okay, my number four is another dexterity game that is just pure fun, like even now for adults. Animal upon animal, animal upon animal. Um, Also a good iconography learning game because you roll a die and then you like basically have to determine what to do based off of what shows up. But it can be very easy. It's good for dexterity and balance and like spatial awareness and like being able like cause and effect sort of things. But it also can be very, funny. It can be very difficult too. Like if you have a very precarious stack. My sister, we like to make fun of her because she is a grown woman and very much struggles with the game. She just like doesn't have, she's not light-handed. And so it's really funny that like, my kids like definitely stand a chance against her and stuff. And honestly against us if you have a bad stack or something like it's really funny because you can pass off some of your things sometimes and give someone else maybe a more difficult piece to stack when the stack is high. It's just a fun game. Yeah, you
Yeah,
play several times in a row usually.
yeah. I think it's a game that you can play with adults. Like I would think that we could have four adults, you and me, and two others, and we could play the game and enjoy it because you're just
Mhm.
stacking animals. It's just a dexterity game. That's fun. My number three is Sorry Sliders, which is also a dexterity game. Um, but you are just flicking little, I don't even know what you call them,
Little pawn
little
things. I
pieces,
don't know. They're like magnetic pawn
yeah,
things.
they just roll really well. You're
It's
trying to
sorry
get them
pieces,
into
yeah.
it. They're sorry pieces, but with
Mhm.
like little ball bearings on the
Mhm.
bottom. And you just flick them and you're trying to get them into a specific spot in the center. And again, very simple rule set. You're just flicking them. You're then tracking how many points you have. Um, and it's just, it's a game that I would play. I mean, I guess I probably wouldn't break it out on a game night usually, but you could. It's
You
fun.
could, yeah.
It's a fun game.
Yeah.
It's
It's
a good
quick.
game,
It's like, hey, dinner's gonna be on the table in 10 minutes. We can still get in a round of sorry
right?
sliders. Yeah.
We've had it for several years and we still break it out. So it's a good one.
My next one, number three, is a deduction game. So Outfoxed is there's a couple games like this, but it is one of the games that the kids can figure out, like, and it's also cooperative, but you can figure out who stole the cake or the pie
Yeah,
or
which
cake or
fox
pie.
stole the cake?
Yeah. and there's like a bunch of different choices, but like throughout the game you're unveiling the suspects, and then you're also unveiling potential clues, so you learn that the criminal may or may not be wearing gloves, and then you can determine then like, oh, this person isn't wearing gloves, so they can't be the criminal. So it's one of those good things because like you can take as much time as you want, and you have the pictures right there in front of you, so you can get your kids to start like eliminating people or foxes based off of the clues, and like, okay, so if the fox isn't wearing glasses, then which one of these can't be the fox, you know? It's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like it. I really like the moments again where you find out a piece of information and you're like, so what does that tell
Mhm.
us? And then they look at the different foxes and they like, oh, this one's wearing glasses, so it can't be them. And you're like, yes. So it's
Mhm.
just, and it's not, it's fun. Like I just enjoy it with them.
It also
So,
has
yeah,
some like tension as you're getting closer. The fox is moving. If you're not figuring stuff out, if you're not unveiling clues or suspects, the fox is getting to where they can escape. And so there's like some tension there of like you're trying to figure it out before the fox does
right.
escape. So
Yeah, good one.
me,
Number two would be me.
oh, you went first
Wait,
on number three.
did I? Okay.
Yeah. Number two. Okay, number two is the type of game I went with is a trivia type of game, which may seem a little sus with kids. But this trivia type of game is cardline animals. So I feel like like kids have some sort of an idea from different, cartoons and books, the size of different animals. Length is always hard for me sometimes,
Mm.
or like lifespan. I think you can also do lifespan, like any of
Lifespan.
the things that are listed on the cards. But like how big they are, like height or length, or weight. So those are always really fun ones for kids. They have an idea, and then or they learn some things too. Um,
Our adults learn some
or
things.
yeah, we definitely always learn some things when we play. Like,
No, that one's not on my list, but it's very good.
mhm.
And we don't own it,
We
which I
don't
wish
own
we
it. Yeah.
did. Because it's just, again, it's just fun to sit down and try and figure out, what weighs more between a cow and a buffalo.
Mhm.
Fun. My number two was Outfoxed. So I think we have quite a few overlaps just because we have the
Children.
same children, same games. We play a lot of the same games together.
Yeah.
For all the reasons, Outfoxed is just super fun. I think we got it at the library for like $2, and it was well
Oh
worth
yeah, it
that.
was. Yeah.
It's like a little, it's way simpler than Clue, but there is deduction that goes on, and it's still a game, and it's just got cute pieces, got
Hmm.
a cute little fox thing,
Hmm.
and the kids like it. And honestly, any game that the kids like and break out ends up being pretty fun.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, so my number one was also already said, which is Animal Upon Animal, for many of the reasons, but also it's at number one because you can start playing it pretty young. There's a simple rule set, and then it's a game that I actually just, that you might break out at any point, and it's just fun. And anybody can play. You can get the grandparents involved. They'll
Hmm. Which, yeah, we've done that
roll
before.
some dice, stack an animal.
The kids can explain it. I love letting them
Oh,
explain games to other people, and so they can go through and explain what each picture means. And I love like when an adult that hasn't played the game before is like, "Oh wait, what does this mean?" And they're able to tell them.
yeah,
Yeah.
good game.
And then my number one is a racing game. I picked Monza, which is my other Hoppa game on here. It's really fun. I just really like the game, and I could sit down and play it for a really long time. Um, roll, I think six. You got six
Oh
dice.
yeah,
I think so. You
love
roll
it.
six, and then you have colors corresponding to spots that are coming up on the board. You get to move to said spots as long as they're touching the current spot that you're in. So you're using hopefully all of your dice to get around the track. But sometimes you get kind of stuck or bottlenecked at a certain spot, and you just need like red or a color. And so there's some tension there because you can be like super far ahead of everybody else, but then not get the color you need. And then someone, passes you or something like that. So it's always fun. It's a good competitive game. We have a lot of like cooperative games or games where like the kids team up on us or something like that, which is always fun. But this one is like everybody for themselves. It's a competition, and it's really fun.
I don't know why I didn't include this one because it is pretty simple. For some reason, I
It's
think
just,
when I
yeah,
thought of it, I thought
color
it was too
recognition.
complicated, but it's we've been playing it with them for years, and
Well, like you can scaffold a lot of these games. Like I wouldn't necessarily give a 2-year-old, some of these things
right. But I mean,
like
even as
outfoxed on their own. But
right, I was thinking that even this one was not was too old for a 5-year-old, but it's definitely not 'cause we played it with our 6-year-old now quite a bit. So yeah,
All right,
pretty good.
and that's our top 10 list. Let us know if you have other things in your list that we didn't include here. And thanks for joining us.
Bye.